the SM Media Podcast Network. Hi folks, and welcome to the penultimate episode of Countdown to Cheltenham before the Cheltenham Festival 2025. I'm Scott Pike. It is always a pleasure to be your host, and we are 6 sleeps away. Callum, it's getting closer. It's always a delight to be joined by Callum McLaughlin from the Scottish Daily Mail.
Yes, just a week now. Final touch has been applied. All your final stable tours coming out, and we'll get confirmation soon for day one. Any supplementary things as well. You know, Joyce and the Mayor's Huddle, for instance, seems to be one. So there's the odd kind of late curveball related to ground that will have to be dealt with, and then you're pretty much all set for the week.
The one we will touch on ground with this first question because I think it is related to this. Would it be Cheltenham Festival previews without a bit of Willie Mullins bingo? Because it's been thrown in just completely off the boil. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, I think it was Brian Drew himself actually that was talking to Nick Luck, and he said,
yeah, it's the owner.
There is a 70-30 chance that Final Demand does go Turners. There was a wee bit of a move for Kopech to board, maybe going up and Trip. That seems to have died down. And it's just thrown a curveball that seemed a couple of weeks ago that it wasn't going to be happening, but now my advice to anybody would be at the moment with any sort of Ante-Post, especially now, just err with caution more than ever because you really don't know. And ground's obviously dependent on a lot of these horses. But watching the Willie Mullins stable tour, it didn't look as if they was mentioning Albert Bartlett, but it's coming from the owner. They might go that route if it stays good.
Yeah, it's just the kind of owner that's keeping that option open for him. I think the owner's got a lot of respect for the new line about that, and it's been enough to move the new line certainly into clear favouritism for the Turners. The drying ground playing a positive factor for him for sure. I think he kind of dispelled that in the DRF anyway. That I think he's quick enough and he's probably versatile enough that maybe they're kind of minding him for the future a little bit. It's 70-30. It moved dramatically early on the day yesterday. It did tail off when, funnily enough, at the same time when Willie Mullins' stable tour came out and his final one, and it was still pretty emphatic that it would be Turners. So if the owner signs 70-30, then it's probably more 85-15, I would say. The owner's also got Fishery Lane in there. And I just think he's maybe kind of... It's that time where owners and trainers start talking to each other and start making final decisions and keeping it open if the ground does dry out, notably, is no bad thing. It's probably a sensible option. He does look very much capable of getting 3 miles down the line. Let's probably get it now. And we'll see what happens. It's still likely that he's going to stick Turners, and that's the original plan. And it's late in the day to deviate from original plans after the DRF. But if the trainer seems to have his kind of set team, and I think he'd be very reluctant to change that. Maybe if it was a JP McManus involved, that he would more inclined to do it. With Brian Drew, possibly not, and maybe he's kind of new lines with very well tipped up and various preview nights as well, and the pace and people thinking that he's a potential champion hurdle horse and things like that. So maybe that's just kind of put the frighteners in the owner a little bit this week out and some butterflies there. But I think they're probably going to stick with the original plan. There's no shame if he gets beaten. He can still kind of come back and be a big player going over fences next season anyway, regardless of what he does. So yeah, it's just when Willie Mullins has got so many options like that, you might as well keep it open until late on. But yeah, it's certainly caused a little bit of panic in some markets. Actually, that's a good thing about not being involved. Really, you can kind of watch it unfold and feel a bit more vindication for waiting in the day and being patient, because he tends to kind of like to do this with novice hurdlers in particular.
Well, on the kind of subject of ground, at the moment it looks as if well, it's at the moment it says it's still soft. There's chat. I mean, it's raining here. I don't know if it's raining where you are just now, but it's raining here. That wasn't forecast, but from what I can see, is there's very little rain scheduled between now and next Tuesday. The risk they've obviously got with watering is the risk they had a few years ago. If you remember, the first day, the year Constitution Hill won the Supreme, that was 3 years ago. It was the first day was kind of good to firm, almost, wasn't it? It was almost kind of Royal Ascot levels of firm. They watered the following day, and then they had a massive downpour that they weren't expecting, and it was heavy. Because I remember very specifically Braveman's game in the evening being about 6 to 4, 7 to 4 for the Brown advisory, and then they ended up taking him out because it was so soft.
Mm.
So it's a risk, obviously, with watering. Where do you think if we were sitting here on Tuesday morning? What do you think the ground description will be? Do you think it will be good to soft?
I think it's the same in the preview night, really. I mean, the long range forecast hasn't changed too much. There's a bit of rain in the air Friday. That should stop them, prevent them watering, and it'll dry out good to soft. And it'll start good to soft. And I think there might be a bit of rain in the air Gold Cup day. And yeah, I really don't think it'll change. The quickest conditions might be the Thursday. And I think they'll probably put some water down Wednesday, Thursday, but it won't be too dramatic. So I think it's been so soft. They had a lot of rain beforehand, like quite a heavy kind of deluge beforehand. They've had kind of 2 weeks of it being relatively dry, and it's just gradually drying out. So I think they're in a really good position this year to maintain it. I think it'd be quite hard to bugger it up, to be honest. It'd be pretty incompetent if they did. But I think long range, you're looking at standard good to soft. I mean, 4 of the last 5 Cheltenham festivals have started on soft ground or worse. Constitution Hill being the outlier, and then we know what happened for the rest of the week. So, I mean, usually you would bet accordingly for spring ground, and actually it'll turn out soft, but it seems to be kind of. I think you'll probably get your usual ground in the main, maybe a bit of rain on the Friday to get the soft back, but I think it should be reasonable all round whatever they do.
Yeah. On that note, wee bit of a question here, a bit of a talking horse that's been coming up, obviously in preview night circuits. Is Mystical Power the biggest threat to Tia Hooper in the Stairs Hurdle?
No, I know. I mean, he's shown nothing, and this is the point. I mean, Willie Mullins flings one in there, possibly, but I mean, he showed nothing. Even the last day in Ireland, his run was arguably even worse. It's a big leap of faith. I know that the Steers division isn't too strong, and he's a new name, and he's pretty excitable. But even his novice hurdling exploits of last season aren't really working out well. Maybe over raced him towards the end of the season a little bit, and he's not really got over that. He was awful in the fight in fifth. He was even worse in Ireland, and I don't think he could back him in whatever he's done. He's another kind of, again, as alluded to previous night, he's another new thing against Tiahupu that he'd be mindful of. But I don't think he could possibly back him, and I think the juice is now gone his price because he's just been confirmed here. That's why he's just been cut, and
Yeah, he's
there's,
slowly
there's
getting cut.
absolutely no substance to his form. He's not even tried 3 miles yet. He looks like a 2.5 miler. It's just a kind of flinging and see kind of thing, like they did with a steer for Longe in Monkfish World. I'd be surprised if he took a hand. If he needs to be. It's to be a reinvented character, and even his best novice form of last season isn't good enough or stacking up enough to really trouble what T Hoop has done if he runs accordingly. So no, he wouldn't be for me. But I can see the appeal of it just because of connections alone. But and he's kind of and his breeding angle would give him slight hope for it. But he's just showed nothing this season, and you can't back horses like that have showed absolutely zilch.
It's
And
very likely that Paul Townend rides him.
well, he has to. There's only one there, and that's another thing. I mean, you could put anybody in bold. It doesn't change the form of the horse. Just hasn't done anything this season. You wouldn't be backing him for anything,
I mean,
really.
he was well fancied against Sergino. Sergino just brushed him aside. But he was terrible at Christmas and hasn't been seen since. So I can see the appeal of it. That was mentioned at the start of the season.
Yeah, it was
One
40.
thing, one thing you can say is, and I watched back his Punchestown run last year, he stays on very well in quick ground to beat Slade Steel and Firefox. So he looks as if he will get appreciate a step up. Whether he's get the form to do it, I think he'd maybe run into a place like 20 to 1 each way. I could see the angle. but I think you're playing for place money at best. I don't think he's any chance of beating Tiahupu.
Or equally could run like a drain, be beaten after 2 hurdles.
Yes,
You know what I mean? And even what's Slade Steele did nothing since Frank that form. Firefox is, pushing 150 chaser if you're lucky. He's been fundamentally put in his place this season by the kind of horse that you expect to win at a Cheltenham Festival. I just see Mystical Pearl doing the same. Untried, unproven, and badly out of form. And I mean, he should be 50s, really.
Let's go into a very good question that came up here. It was floating about as well. If the Cheltenham Festival was one day with 8 races, what races would you have in it?
Mm-hmm.
Are we in agreement? There's 3 that can't be taken out: Champion Hurdle, Champion Chase, Gold Cup. Are they in yours?
Absolutely, yes.
Do you have the Stairs Hurdle?
No.
Neither do I. Have you got the Supreme?
Yes. Yeah.
Arkle?
Yes.
Brown Advisory?
Just, yes.
Okay, so that's 6 we're in agreement of. What's your other 2?
And another one, the Albert Bartlett would be in for me.
Okay.
And the Coral Cup would be in for me. Because
okay.
You need a betting race, you need a handicap.
Well, my thought was, I've changed it up a wee bit. If you were having this, I was very close to putting the Triumph Hurdle in, but again, I think you would maybe, like with that, a Triumph Hurdle would go for the Supreme.
You can run in the Supreme.
I've got no mares races because I think if they were to do it, they can do their own day or whatever. I've got a 2.5 mile handicap chase to the plate, which I think would be a lot more open if they only had one option.
Yeah, you could have chucked it the Brown Advisory for the plate. I almost did that.
And I've got a 3 mile handicap hurdle because if you don't have if you've got a champion hurdle, I don't think you need a 2 mile handicap. I've got a 3 mile handicap hurdle that you can move the pertemps about, not make it a dodgy qualifying system, and just have an open 3 mile handicap hurdle. And I think you've got a lot better horses in there.
Yeah, I just prefer the 2.5 one. I think the Coral Cup's a cracking race. I think it's the best handicap in the card, and I don't. And with me putting in Albert Bartlett, a race that I quite like.
You love the Albert Bartlett.
It's a fantastic race. It's a betting race. It stays. I mean, it might be a less of a betting race if the final demand turns up there, but I mean, you do not you get 4-1 in the field.
Yeah.
And if you've got the Supreme there, you don't need the intermediate. All the intermediate races, the graded races can be binned off. You can go Supreme or you could go Albert Bartlett. I mean, the Stairs Hurdle division is poor. Really, that Albert Bartlett is sometimes even a better spectacle than that.
No fancy putting the bumper in?
No, all the cross country, no, absolutely not.
The chat is Kevin Blake's got a column, obviously, get it back down to 3 days. There's also somebody else saying we do need 5 days at this point. It's getting to the stage now. I am very interested to see what the attendances are the next 4 days because I know a lot of people who are going abroad.
It's not looking good. It's about 80% at the moment, I think. There's a lot of enclosures apart from Gold Cup Day, I think, that are empty. And it's just if people have gone in the past that are spending too much and not having great experiences, they don't come back. It's simple as that. And the way the economy is, and you're getting less bang for your buck everywhere you go, really. People stay away, and any excuse to go holiday at this time of year as well abroad tempts a lot of people, a lot of folk, and it's been done. I mean, I've done it. Funnily enough, Lanzarote, I think it's absolutely poor. I think it's a hailstorm over there at the moment.
I went to Benidorm the year of COVID and missed the last 2 races because we were told to go back to the hotel because we were getting into lockdown.
Yeah, the thing is, if you take your betting seriously on the day, you can kind of miss a lot of stuff, and that would kind of annoy you at the back of your head. So, there is a kind of flip side to it, but I mean, it's each their own decision making wise. But the Jockey Club have got a lot of work to do to get people back on side anyway in the future because it doesn't look too good this year. I think they've obviously identified that by making changes and trying to look something, but it takes time to get your customers back if they've been a bit alienated. And with Aintree so close as well, it'd be pretty hard for most people to do both of them 3 weeks in between each other. And those 30% of the crowd at the DRF were from Britain as well, so it'd be hard to do those two as well, and they were getting kind of 150. I mean, I think you could pretty much go there all weekend for the price of a day there, really, pretty much all in. So yeah, I mean, there's just there's so many things for people to do that, you know, if the finances don't stack up, then they'll go elsewhere or do something else.
Yeah, and I think it will be quite intriguing, and I'm waiting on kind of things coming out. But I think we don't. I don't think they'll change it. They won't change it to 3 days anyway. 5 days, I think, is inevitable in like 10 years. But I think they'll keep it at 4 days for the time being, and maybe jazz up the racing again. Let's move into the previous weekend. Not a lot of action that happened. We'll go through briefly over some horses that won at the weekend. We'll start with the Premier Chase. Grey Dawning won the Premier Chase. Looked to be back to his best. I would say probably his best performance since the Turners. And skipping Cheltenham, going to Aintree, and you'd have to give him a shot in it if he can add, can I live up to that? Because I thought this was very, very good after what's been a tough couple of runs.
Yeah, they've kind of Betfair Chase was very attritional. They didn't go over at King George. Hated going right-handed that day, I think, as well. And he was just rushed off his feet. But here, this back small field, nice opportunity, confidence boost, and you know he was a better horse in the Rocco, and it showed. And you know his price 5 to 6 was on the off was just silly. You know, I mean, we said last week he should be 1 to 2, and he won
Yeah.
like a 1 to 2 shot. He was too quick for a Rocco who admirably plugged on in there.
Has
Yeah,
he
you
went
know,
up in your estimation for a national after that?
it's pretty much the same. I was neither kind of impressed or unimpressed. You know, he's 12 to 1. You know, that sums up his chance. I just wonder if he's A, that well in, and B, he's got enough class. I kind of doubt it because he was kind of trying to hang on in there anyway. But he was probably it might reveal. If Great Dawning wins the Aintree Bowl, then he probably goes off borderline favourite at Rocco, isn't he? On Calaro form, and he probably wants it a bit softer as well. So he ran okay. I wouldn't have been diving in at 12s, but you know I wouldn't dismiss his chance yet. Be pretty non-committal about him. It was all about the winner, and that was a nice. And you can see why the Skeltons have kind of done that. It was a nice confidence booster. He's a very smart horse, and you know he's one to keep an eye on it for the Gold Cup next season because I think it would potentially suit him. A lot of protectorate about him with his style of running. Um, Bold. If he's able to kind of dictate things, I think it sees him in good light when he gets a good cut at his fences. He's pretty good, and he was pretty faultless on Saturday at Kiel. So it was good to see a horse like that come back.
We'll move. Lucinda Russell had quite a good day. Obviously, she won the handicap hurdle with Bold Light, and then she completely out of the blue won with Jet to Vegas, who beat obviously the Willie Mullins horse that Patrick had brought over, who was backed as if defeat was out of the question. Jet to Vegas, they have mentioned Aintree, but this was a real turn up. Nobody, I don't think Jet to Vegas was in a lot of people's radar for this at all.
Yeah, you can get that Kelso though, and the local trainers can do well. It was really good day for Scottish racing because you know we've got a lot of prize money there, and a lot of local trainers did really well. So they've targeted it successfully. It had a lot to find in the figures. You know, it'd be pretty hard to spot. It was clipped in from 33s, 25s into 16s. So I mean, did fancy. I mean, they bowled him out quite front, and you know, when it's a pace orientated front runner's track, and if it suits you, it suits you, and it's very hard to peg back. And he wasn't stopping at the line. I'd be a bit worried around Aintree because he was jumping quite violently right, and I don't think he'd get away with that up in grade around there. So I think you'd have to give a kind of nice, kind of ground saving ride in the inner, and maybe jumping alongside somebody that will keep him straight. He could probably take in the 2.5 mile race if he wanted to, if they're that bold and aggressive. They could go 2 miles. You could probably see and check which race is more suitable in the day. But a very smart performance. I think you get a kind of a big hike into like the mid 130s or something like that. 137 that he's been given, I think, something like
Yeah.
that. For it. So, but yeah, I mean, on the terms, and you know, he's definitely beating the right horse home. Couldn't reel him in. And that Sharp Topper was backed into 5 to 4, and he seemed to run his race perfectly fine. So it was a decent little race that, and the outsider what he won it fair and square. I'd just be a bit worried about how violently he jumps right. He certainly won't be able to get away with that
Mhm.
Upton grade at Aintree.
We'll move into the Moor battle, which was won by Evan Williams' horses, Kraken Rhapsody. Still got an entry in the county, obviously going for the bonus. I'd imagine they'll take it up. I don't know if you've heard anything to suggest otherwise, but This was very good. Nothing really kind of. And here, I think a few of the kind of fancied horses. Wilfo was quite disappointing. Like Vitchell didn't run a race either. But you have to hand it to Craig Nicol and Evan Williams. A really good win here.
Horses for courses, Kelso, it's a very idiosyncratic track, and he won it last year and won it again here, even up £13 in the weights. They might as well have a pop at it. The pop last year, they're probably absolutely handicapped out of it, and that was the plan anyway. It'd be very difficult to do, but give them an excuse to go down to Cheltenham for sure and have a day out. He's toughed it out really well. Got to the Ollie Murphy horse quite well. I thought it was kind of away and gone. He was travelling comfortably. Just again, it's such a weird track because it's pace, 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 and then at the last, there's that kind of stiff climb to the finish, and it can you've got enough in the tank in reserve, or you're all of a sudden very, very vulnerable in the last 50 yards, and fortunately for a second he was the latter, and get reeled in. It was a good race with Det. Vitchell, Everton just happened too quick for her, and you'd be more interested in her at 2.5 miles, and she's shaped like that at Leopardstown. And I'd be a bit worried with McClory in the county hurdle, because I think the same fate will happen to him. I think he might get taken out his comfort zone too early over 2 miles in a race like that. Leopardstown get away with it a bit, particularly when you're as well in as you are. But we carry an extra weight in a better race over a trip that is the bare minimum for you. You will get found out, and she get found out for pace early on. Favourite Fortune get badly hampered. And the two O'Neill horses ran like drains, and I'd be concerned about that yard going into Cheltenham now, because their form has taken a nosedive. A lot of them didn't run the races over the weekend.
Yeah.
And checked out very, very tamely. So it was an interesting little race. And I wouldn't give up on them at Mullins Horse that, because I just think the track and trip found it out. I think with Cheltenham in mind, I think if you look at her in a Coral Cup, she might run okay if they take a chance here.
We'll go to Newbury for the Great Wood Gold Cup, and I'd love to see what the price was in Booster Bob at the turning in, because looked as if he was out the telly, made headway in, beat Vincenzo to win at 61. Good win for Ollie Murphy, but Sean Bowen, I mean, hats off to him for that.
Well, I was in the second, so no. But I think finally you've picked one out of Vincenzo at 8.91 each way. You've mastered the only danger, and you're thinking, right, I've got one right here. This is good. I'm going to get a nice winner, and then this comes from nowhere and beats you by a length and a half. He hit 888 to 1 and running.
Yeah, I can believe that.
And the most annoying aspect of it is it's a horse I really like. And I backed him at Chepstow in a lesser grade about 64, and he was absolutely hopeless. And it was like, oh, never again with this. He's gone, and he's obviously quirky. He does have a big injury in him. That's what got him out of trouble. And Sean Bowen, it's a trademark of his now is his persistence out at the back, and he's done that a couple of times already this season to great effect. He keeps at it, and there's never a lost cause with him. And you get your reward. They probably went too hard up top, got to admit, and fallen at his lap a bit. That might have flattered him. Newbury, it's a long way home. He's got there well, and you can see him stepping up and trip and stepping up in that, and he has that type of horse where his engine can get him out of trouble. There's certainly talent there. It's just kind of somehow harnessing it out of him, and they did it on a race like that where it's quite a big prize fund as well. So they'll be delighted with that, and yeah, he's going to get a fair rise for it. But again, you can see him can see him popping up again at some point, doing something exactly the same. He's that kind of enigmatic horse.
We'll go to Doncaster just for the grim thought. We'll go to Marauder, obviously winning for Seamus Mullins. Again, kind of got out well off a long break. Won this pretty well, I would say. And I thought his jumping was pretty good. Like, obviously, they missed the jump at the third last, but I thought his jumping just in the end just won it for him.
Yeah, and he'll go back to Sandown, won't he, for that
Bet365
finale. That'll be kind of his bag. But yeah, he's a veteran horse. He's sweetened up nicely for that. And again, it's a brilliant pot to win. He's won it before 2 years ago, and he's come back and did it. You just think veterans, think with age, it's just catching up with them, and he was overlooked in the market as a result. The Nippan ran well in second. It was strong money for him, and he was just kind of touched off, outpaced maybe at one point, but I think that was because of the winner's fluent jumping. He wasn't going to get caught at the home straight. He won with a bit to spare. And if he gets similar kind of drying conditions at Sandown, sometimes you don't get, but he could go well again if he gets his own way near the head of affairs. So yeah, I mean, a very talented veteran. It's not in veterans chases. It's winning these kind of big open handicaps. It's one of Doncastle's biggest jumping days there, and he's going out and taking it out again.
Yeah, we'll go to Navan just for a couple of horses. Champ Kiley thought, again, outclassed these, to be honest. 1 at 3 to 10. He's still in the Brown advisory. My thought after this was, if he can do that, he'd maybe ever been an each-way player in an Arkle.
Yeah, fairy house, isn't it, for him?
Probably, yeah. But you wouldn't rule him out on Arkle like, if he'd went down that route.
You've got Ballyburn, and you've got Ballyburn in the Brown advisory, and you've got Marsburg there. I mean, it's pointless taking them on, really. He's an intermediate horse. He's a grade 2, is probably his level, and he's a bit versatile. He can go up 3 miles stretched him. He outstayed it in the DRF, things like that didn't really go to plan. Comes back in grades and wins as his price really should. Yeah, and he's a fluid jumper, bit old for a kind of novice chaser, but he's doing his job. He's just going to plunder these kind of prizes out with the main festivals, isn't he? He's top of their kind of B list, isn't he? Mm-hmm. of horses, and that's kind of what he is. And he's been well placed to win that quite comfortably.
Sinicia beat El Fabiolo. We'll get to El Fabiolo in a minute. Sinicia obviously completely out of the blue, just put El Fabiolo's jumping under pressure. But again, like El Fabiolo, where do you go for here? Because he looks terrified of fences, and that was unheard of.
I watched it back. I thought he was fine.
I made a terrible mistake at the third last.
He was a bit bunny hopped, but he didn't lose any ground. Then he comes back in the bridle and heavy ground, 2 mile 4 for the first time. I think he just get outstayed.
What do you do with him? Because
you just run him at Aintree and better ground and see where you are. I mean, I thought he jumped fine. He was low, he was quick. He jumped like a 2 mile to me in a 2.5 mile race, and he get outstayed. And yeah, he's obviously low in confidence. I don't think he's come a bad horse overnight. He's probably not 100% over his issues yet. And Willie Mullins alluded to that, saying the heavy grounds caught him out, and he raced too keenly as well, because when he actually made a move past Phil Dorr again, it lit him up quite quickly, and he was pulling away very hard, and I think that did him in, and he didn't get home. I thought he jumped okay. There was a mistake at the third last. It wasn't significant. And that horse going up and trip has caught him out. And don't forget, I mean, he ran absolute blinder at 250 to 1 Sinicia in the 4 trio in third, behind Found the 15 Solness. And look at Solness. Solness has won 2 grade 1 since. So it wasn't impossible to find out. I didn't really have a great eye in Navan live watching it, but he's a bit big, but he's beaten like Phil Doors and Gentleman Denise of the world, you know.
Grangesclere West, that was a bad run.
Well, that's what he's like, you know. He's very, very brittle. He's a fragile horse, you know, and it doesn't scream value for the form of the Irish Gold Cup in behind Galloping Deschamps. You know, Galloping Deschamps miles clear anyway. It doesn't affect it, but you know, you do have to question what kind of level of horse he's beaten this season. I mean, it's as if he's broke them all one by one, really.
Mm-hmm. So you're keeping the faith, well, Fabio?
I'll keep a faith to a degree. I mean, I wouldn't write him off for Aintree. You know, he's going to come in. I think he'll improve in that, and I think he'll improve for it in better ground. But I certainly didn't think his jumping was bad.
Sunday at Leopardstown. Not anything to add. Like Devil's Coachman won. Anything on Sunday that caught your eye?
Devil's Coachman won quite nicely, but again, he's just going to be pretty difficult to place. You'll have to kind of wait for these kind of conditions races to kind of fall in his lap and see what he can do. But it was a step back in the right direction because he came back down and trip a little bit, and that kind of surprisingly suited okay. So maybe he's a bit more versatile, and he can go over fences again if they want to. So yeah, I think they just have to kind of try and map out, like a lot of these horses, you know, if you're not festival class, you've got to kind of try and find these kind of conditions races, these weak grade 2s that might fall apart, and you can kind of go in there with kind of 140, high 140, mid 150 horse and mop them up when they suit.
We'll go to quickly just a horse I wanted to talk about that you gave a shout out to in the preview night. The Cocktail Divan one on Monday obviously gives William Money's form a boost, would have given Cowabunga a boost as well. Lost to Cade Dothy, but again, I think there's a really nice horse in here.
Yeah, he just didn't run his race the last day because of the yard were completely out of form, and he was definitely talented one. Work Ahead was the kind of touted the supreme horse, the big Westerner was a Bartlett horse, and then they had this fella for the Turners. And yeah, he's going to go to Aintree by all accounts, and with a big chance, freshened up accordingly. He did it very nicely. Probably did it that he's entitled to do it, and the money from the off was strong. But yeah, he jumped neatly and nicely, and 2.5 was certainly his optimum trip. It was definitely travelled kinder than that and at the right speed. So yeah, he has a nice one to go to war with. You'd be happy if you're running each way price for him at Aintree when he's kind of maybe the fresh one that people might forget about a little bit, because he's definitely capable of making a step into Grade 2, Grade 1 company.
Let's move to Sandown, where we have a busy weekend. Obviously, the last weekend before Cheltenham, it's always good if you can get your pot filled with some winners here. We'll go to the Imperial Cup, where a couple of interesting runners that have seemed to be going here. Bo Zenith at 5-1 for Nicky Henderson. You've got Lump Sum, Affidel, Godante, Batman Girac for Willie Mullen. Seems to be coming here. Knickerbocker Glory for the Skeltons, and kind of likes to Chase of Dreams in here as well. Anything you like?
Yeah, there's a couple that I quite liked at prices. I mean, like about 16-1 for Knickerbocker Glory being one of them. He was third at 20-1 Windsor last day in a valuable kind of Winter Millions kind of race, which was quite hot, and he ran well from the front that day. The second last run, he whacked the Mean Lion by 8 lengths at Sandown over course and distance. He was getting a lot of weight that day, but the Mean Lion's gone front that form quite nicely. He was fifth in it last year. He was second 2 years ago. He's a bit up in the weights, but for a course and distance operator like that, he was in decent heart. Becoming a kind of master at kind of mapping horses out for this.
Yeah.
He's definitely one of interest at 16-1 because he's justified his mark here. 139, it's no gimme. He's a bit older than your natural profile for it, and he might be vulnerable for win purposes, but he will definitely give you an each way run again for your money. Given that he's hit the frame twice in the last 2 years in it already. Fergal O'Brien's 10-10-10 was the other at 14s that I would give a mention to. More the kind of unexposed 6-year-old type. Ran the Greatwood when 6th. Not the Greatwood, the Estates Handicap Hurdle. Mirabad won that. Bo Zenith was 3rd. Chase of Dream was 4th. It was strong. It was decent enough form. He just lacked a bit of speed in that good ground. And then he's well fancied again at Ascot, really. 7th of 10. And he didn't stay in behind Altobelli, who was a very impressive winner and has franked that form since as well. He just didn't get home. He actually travelled quite well into it to the last and then petered out over 2 mile 3. Coming back in trip would suit. He did actually run the Greatwood. He was 4th at a big price and run really well. And that form in behind, I certainly be aware Burdett Roads is very good. The 6th was won fiercely proud that day as well. The 10th was Cracking Rhapsody, who won last weekend. So yeah, and he stepped up in that. But he took a battle step at December over course and distance when 6 out of 14. But Fergal O'Brien's yard were beginning to go missing at that time of year. I think come back trip here off 124 at £2 lower than his Greatwood effort. I think he's got a reasonable chance. There'll be 2 at prices that I'll be looking at to take on. I mean, I thought Bo Zenith would go Coral Cup. I'm surprised he's here. I thought he'd be a big danger over 2.5.
I think well, from what I can see, they do have entries in the Coral Cup Martin Pipe. Whether they think the bonus is possible, because
There is a bonus.
yeah,
That's
why I think that's why
bonus.
Willie's sending Batman Girac over as well. Like he got a strong shout out from somebody the other day. I can't remember who for the county. So whether they think there's maybe a potential bonus in this, I don't know. 2 I like at a price. I like to Chase a Dream for Paul Collins. I think he ran a very good race last time out where he was second behind Classic King at Doncaster. I think he'll handle the ground. Was beaten at Cheltenham by Harley DeSoy, who's the other one I like in this as well for Jamie Snowden. I think 2 decent horses who'll handle the ground off pretty much. We'll get Harley DeSoy's only £1 higher. both seem to be going here, and I think, well, 10-1, 25-1, I think they're decent each way plays in this. I don't really fancy any at the top of the market. Lump sum, I can't have. Affidav's quite low. I just think at them, they sort
Affidav's
of
better than a
prices.
flat track, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Batman Girac, there's still no kind of semblance of him settling yet. And 135 and what he's done is absolutely no gimme.
they
Affidal, I think,
ran terrible
very,
ran
very,
terrible at Christmas.
they fell
Batman
last
Girac.
year, didn't
Yeah.
he? Affidal, I mean, Affidal, he definitely, undoubtedly, in a good mark. I think he's kind of more, I'll keep him in mind for a Scottish champion. A little more, I think he prefers like a flatter track than this. Does like going right-handed, but I'm not quite sure. Lump sums get top weight. Go down to win it last year, and there's some money for him. Understandable. Murphy's form is coming good again, and you've got Sean Bowen jocked up. So I mean, he was the one at the top of the market. I thought was the most interesting. But I think this is a good race to have a kind of pop at an outside of it.
Yep, we'll go into the 3 o'clock, the Mayor's National Hunt Flat Race. One I like, I'm sticking with the Jamie Snowden theme here. I thought A Path to Ronda put in a really nice performance at Uttoxeter on New Year's Eve. I remember backing it and thinking, I think she'll handle the ground pretty well. She looks to be a kind of long-term stayer. I think this will be right up her street.
Yeah, I quite like Dream Shadow in it, but so I think she can overturn the kind of form with Charisma Cat around here. She'd just get done for speed, and I think a kind of stiffer track will help her massively. And Fergal O'Brien's campaigned her like Dasartinos last year, and if she's anywhere near that good, she'd win this.
We'll go to the 3:35. We've got the Betfair handicap chase. I don't have prices here, but I can see some old favourites, the likes of Goshen, Excelo, Disaba. Anything you like in here that maybe I've not mentioned? Because I don't see any prices on this at the moment.
Yeah, I quite like Ina Shaw going round this way at 16s, and that's kind of big. Lucinda Russell, he had obvious form, unseated the last 8. That was forgivable. Was quite a warm order actually. That Musselburgh 41 favourite didn't fire, pulled up at Ascot, didn't quite fire. There's certainly something in him there, and his mark's plummeting as a result. He's going down from 133 with a 10-1 chance of Scottish National to 124. So, and we saw him hack up the Edinburgh National last year off 119. So I mean, he's definitely got a big performance in him when he puts it all together. Whether it's in a race that's as competitive as this, where he needs to be pretty prominent, is open question. But the price reflects that at 16-1. So I thought he was interesting. The one at the top of the market, holy smoke, the Skeletons is a big shout at 7s. The yard kind of, apart from the new line aside, kind of went missing at Christmas, and he was one of them at Newbury, where I think the extra quarter mile did him in a little bit in behind. A good race. Henry's Friend won. High Mike was second at Newbury, and he did okay. He moved into 4th, backed out about 3 out. Turned out that he bled, but he's back around Sandown 3 miles where he won really impressively off 120. He whacked Passing Well, who ran pretty well neither. Recently, Jupiter Allen, who's run some decent races subsequently as well. So he's only a pound higher. He's only £7 higher than that, and he looked like a young horse that was very much on the up. He was only beaten 5 lengths by Resplendent Grey as well. So he's definitely got some untapped potential, and he's quite interested at 7s. So I narrowed it down to those 2 really.
I like Dreaming Blue for Anthony Honeyball. I think there's some decent form this season behind the likes of Beachcomber. I thought he was very good in second behind O'Connell last time out at Sandown. Thought he ran a really good race. And again, the only one thing that would concern me the last day was his jumping, where he was jumping slightly right. But I think the softer ground, I think just the fact it was a bit heavy that day, I think he kept on really well to the line. He was in front of a nice horse for David Maxwell indoor, who I think is a potential horse in better ground. So I wouldn't rule him out as well. And Anthony Honeyball in decent form at the moment. I think they're 18% at the moment. So decent horses. They don't have a lot of runners, but they seem to be getting a good turn at the moment. I think I would go for Dreaming Blue in that. But again, very much open to others. Nothing really else. Here's on. Are you going to air?
No, No, not this weekend. I was there last Monday where they had a kind of free day, and I thought I walked into like some sort of bank holiday thing. It was like 4 times busier than normal. It was almost like a Scottish national crowd. It goes to show it was a good weekend for Scottish racing at Kelso, and then a freebie air for members, which was quite good. So that was quite busy. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be able to make it the Friday Saturday.
My favourite race of the year is on Saturday. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? You know how excited I get for this race.
What is it? Is it the
It is the 5:35 at Goring Park. It is the Docks Bumper National Hunt Flat Race. Do you remember some of the horses that have come from this?
no?
Bob Ollinger won this. Journey with Me won it as well last year. Port Gillian won it, who, again, people are putting up for the Albert Bartlett. So it tends to have some decent horses. One horse that's entered in it is Sarfatal.
Right, okay, yeah,
So
I've heard of him. He was quite short in the bumper market. Right?
yeah, he was the one I put up for the bumper. Mad Jack's Hill's in here as well. There's some other decent horses. The Flying King. Just keep an eye for next season. I know people were giving enormous shouts about, oh, watch the French racing yesterday because Willie will pick 3 or 4. This race has produced some good horses in the past, so keep an eye on that. Couple of decent races at Goring. Sunday, we've got the Leinster National. Anything you like in that? I mean, just looking at some of the horses that are lined up for it, it's you've got the Grade 3 novice hurdle, and you've got the Leinster National at 4:45. You've got like Saffordale Furies in here any second now. It seems to be more of a national trial now than it was for anything else.
I'm quite interested in Chosen Witness in the Leinster National. I'm
Yeah.
interested to see what price is because off 132, which is it's a very reasonable mark for him.
Mm-hmm.
Not really a race Willie Mullins, but you want it with like pair of brown eyes at the horse like that can develop into a national horse pretty slowly, an Irish national first, then maybe into Grand National territory.
He
He's had
seemed to
some
be going
very kind
okay
of
behind Better Days Ahead last time out.
yeah, and that was a good race, and he was only 10-1, but then he kind of unseated it, a bit of a soft unseat in behind Better Days Ahead and Stellar Story. It was hard to see because of the fog, but he unseated 4 out, and he's certainly not done with 3-car Bragg's run. He's done quite well before that as well. So that was a kind of good race where he'd be kind of maybe beginning to show his hand a little bit, stepped up and it was interesting that he ran him in a grade 2 like that. He's third in Fairyhouse, he ran well behind Champ Kelly, who we know is probably 150 material.
Also won at Ale last year, remember?
Yeah, he was outpaced. And that was interesting. People interested. He denied a Skelton horse at Ayr on soft ground when he was up and trip. And this is the first time he'll be up and trip. And he shapes like a kind of regional national horse. And he's unexposed for an 8-year-old. And off 132, he could be lobbed in here. He won that air race off 130.
Mm-hmm.
And then they ran him at Punchestown, which was a bit too ambitious and too much of a short turnaround. Definitely a race in him. I'm interested to see what price he is because I think he's one that I'll probably back because he could be a different proposition now going handicap and he's been given a very good chance at 132 against some pretty exposed types at the top of the market. I mean, Espirito Bello, I mean, he's 144, but he's 11 now. Affordale Fury 147, be top weight. Panda Boys lost his way badly. Bronze lost his way badly. Any second now he's 13. He's very interesting. I'd imagine he would be pretty near the top of the market on the basis of that. And Gordon Elliott have a couple in against him, but I thought he was quite interesting going handicap and a race like this is kind of where I imagined him to be. Kind of 3 mile one soft ground. I think he'll like that. He just needs to get off one seat last day, but it looks soft and innocuous enough, and he's back out relatively quickly, and I think that's a good sign. So I can see him taking this on the Sunday.
Yep, and we will have columns on Saturday and Sunday. Callum will have his selections as well. And a wee treat on Sunday, I'm going to publicise my Ante-Post book. There's not a lot to write home about, but it's the time of the year where I got it out. It's not looking great. I've seen it better, shall we say. I've seen it busy. I've seen it with more lines. I think I had 30 bets. Maybe not as much as that. Like, it was quite low. Like, it was like last year, I remember it been a lot busier. I remember a few years ago, the first time I did it, it was very big. But it's not as busy now as it was.
Prices aren't there, and let's be honest, you can't get on properly either. It's difficult. It's difficult, and it's not worth your while. I mean, you might as well wait in the day, and even now, I mean, there's a potential flip in 2 of the 3 novice hurdles. So I mean, you might as well kind of wait now you're that close. Yeah, I can. I've certainly had under 10 bets this year Ante-Post, which is, and it's gradually been going down every year, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not as busy as it was, but that'll drop on Sunday as well. Want to thank everybody who checked out a preview night. It was very well received, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And we will definitely, hopefully, get some winners from it. Anything you want to add to your tracker before we kind of discuss our final thoughts before next week?
Yeah, a tracker and a bet. I'll put
Ooh,
up put up Jungle Boogie in the Ryanair chase at 14 to
awesome.
1.
Okay.
This race is falling apart a bit. And just the way Grange Clare West ran, it's a not direct line. You might beat Factifile. I just wonder if Factifile is that vastly superior in the Ryanair to the rest of these. Probably is, but you know, at 64, he's short enough now, and you can take him on. And I think Ellie Francais, his presence in here, I think Jungle Boogie will just love that travelling behind him, bucking away, and he has that strong travelling, good jumping sort, and I think he'd really enjoy that. And better ground suits him more than Protectorate, who I think might struggle to keep up with him. I know he's 11 and he wouldn't have the profile for it, but he's lightly raced, and his ratings, he's getting better all the time. He is progressing. So he's 11's kind of a false start a little bit. I think Dara Keefe will probably ride him. If he doesn't, I think Jack Kennedy's going to pick up a spare there because Found the 50's going champion chase. Don't think Gordon Elliott's got anything for it.
No,
So imagine Jack Kennedy will ride maybe a Hartwood, maybe Envoy Allen. I think Rachel Blackmore might find it tough to get off Envoy Allen given his back catalogue. But Dara Keefe's had a good relationship with Jungle Boogie. I like how they've kept him fresh. And if you watch how he ran last year's Gold Cup, he is that kind of horse, like a bit like Protectorate where he was third. I know he stayed on, but he was absolutely bang there and cruising, and it wasn't a sequestration off the bridle. He just didn't stay that extra quarter mile beyond the 3 miles. He jumped beautifully, travelled into it nicely. Then he got a little bit hampered when the Jerry Colombe scrimmaging happened, and he backed out of it because it on stamina grounds. But I think he's a high class operator, and this is cutting up. I don't think Willie Mullins is sending anything of significance. It seems Gaelic Warrior and Energaming are both champion chase bound regardless now. So it's cutting up, and you could see Jungle Boogie fighting out with JLo to be fourth favourite. And I think he can get Protectorate beat. And I think he can get Ellie Francais beat on track grounds alone. I think he's got massive potential to bomb out. He could check out of it quite tamely once headed, if headed, of course. But you know, I think the undulating track's a massive question mark, and he's too short anyway now. And in fact, if I'll still get to do it in open company, really. I mean, I know he did it in the John Durkin, but the form in behind hasn't been frank. Out with Gallop and Deschamps here, none of them have done anything. Mm-hmm. Spillane Tower, disappointed in the King George. Thought he would run a bit better, not coming here. Yeah, he might well be a good thing, and he'll stride on and do exactly what Jungle Boogie did, but he's got to prove it in open company, and in the 564 bracket now, he's plenty short enough to do so. It's not as if he's a massive unexposed horse that'll just be Gold Cup horse next year. I mean, he could well be, but he has 8. You know, it's not as if he's kind of...
He's only run 7 times Jungle Boogie in his career.
Exactly. He's very fragile, brittle, but he's very talented when he gets it right. And when he goes fresh, he does tend to get it right. So 14 to 1, I think, is a knocking each way bet, because I think they've got a slight chance at the win there. And if he runs his race, I can't see him being out the top 3.
Okay. Yeah, definitely can see that. Like, he's definitely a player. I think Henry's quite a good hand in this, and they're all the exact same price. You've got Envoy Allen, who I think even last year looked out of... You can't rule him out here, especially at Cheltenham. He's won it 3.
And he'll get his ground this year.
Get his ground. Hartwood, I think Hartwood's a knocking bet as well. I can see him being a player. I think this is going to cut up quite badly.
That's why. I mean, there's 4 of them at the top above in the market that are going to come out. You know, you're going to get... If you don't know his sound,
you can Factifile
off 8s.
Factifile, Willie Francais, Protectorate,
JLo, Jungle
Boogie, yeah, like you've not
Spillane's
Tower. Spillane's Tower, you heard it? Is he definitely going?
Not going.
Yeah,
Doesn't seem he's going. No, that seems not happening. So I mean, you're taking out quite a lot in the market there quite quickly. So yeah, there's just a slight betting opportunity there. I think at
Yeah, no,
14.
I think I'm
One for
all
the tracker. One for the tracker was Ace of Spades at Kelso.
I thought you were going to bring him up.
Well, yeah, if over 3 miles again, he'll win. He just didn't get to bold light, and he did run quite well and toughed it out the speed and kind of had track position, but he was hampered to get out. And I think Harry Skelton overcooked the fractions the first time, and I think he kind of got it too far back on that occasion as a result. And he also switched inside into traffic, which kind of bothered him. But I mean, you can see him up to 3 miles going in next time because he's clearly well treated. He was staying on best at the line. So back up to that 2 mile 6 or 3 mile distance, I think he'd go in the next day.
I have won at Kelso as well. I thought Nettywell run quite well in second behind Gallic Geordie. I
Yep.
thought obviously it was just beating Gallic Geordie obviously stayed on, but I wouldn't rule not Nettywell maybe going up in trip soon. I think there's potentially a good race there. I think maybe unlucky the last day. I think it's
Soft ground's key to him, and he likes
yeah,
to dominate more. So yeah, I mean, maybe like a scoosh down.
yeah.
Left-handed helps him as well, so he can't really go right-handed. But yeah, he could dominate maybe kind of a similar kind of class 3 event kind of thing in soft ground. I think he would stretch him. But yeah, he's shaping as if he can get 2.5 these days. So he was kind of a bang, flat out 2 miler. But no, yeah, he was definitely one as well that he could keep an eye on going forward.
Right, just obviously before we wrap up, just so it's 6 days away. We've got a final show we're going to do on Monday. That'll be Monday at 5 o'clock. Callum, it's not as competitive as it usually is, but it's still Cheltenham. It's still the best week of the year. It's still hard to not get excited, especially when you're off work for a week.
It's getting exciting. It still excites you. I mean, the champion hurdle could be a brilliant race now. It looks like all three of them are going at the top.
Yes.
You just want them to make it. You don't want any kind of last minute setbacks that derail you and kind of spoil the party. We've already unfortunately had kind of one. All right, it's not last minute, but Marsborough versus
So do you know?
Sub-Zero would have been some spectacle as well in the first day. I'm not going to get that, but you're going to get still the vast majority of top class horses are going to be running. Yeah, there are a lot of short price favourites, a lot of competitive handicaps, and there's a good general look to it all round. So yeah, it's always going to be exciting watching top class horses like that over 4 days. So yeah, bring it on.
Just a wee bit of news just before we wrap up. Joyous has been supplemented for the Mares Hurdle. Woodoo hasn't, by all reports. That
Yeah.
might change, but Joyous, I wouldn't rule it out a Mares Hurdle, especially if it's going to open up and the big two aren't going.
Well, exactly. I mean, it might not be a great race for Grade One, but it's got an open look to it. I think Jade de Grugy is way too short in it, and yeah, Joyous would be one of plenty of each way alternatives against her. I would think. Yeah, I can see why they've done it. See why JP McManus has done it. He's certainly not short of a few quid to throw one in. It's a shame it's not Zenta, but it's Joyous. But yeah, it's one of those where if you've got a progressive 140 horse, you could definitely chuck them in here and see where you are because it's not a daunting Grade One.
So just assuming that Zenta doesn't have your money for the Mares Chase. Well, she was entered. She's not entered now. She was in it for a while.
She was swiftly pulled out in the first
Yeah.
declaration stage. Yeah, but it's one. I mean, she might have been overreaching. She's not even in any handicaps, is she? So yeah, but it was worth the kind of flyer at the time. I mean, you could have landed on. I mean, G degree was probably around 14, 16 to 1 mark, when you knew that this could cut up to a massive degree, but it's just whether who's good enough to kind of take the step forward and go in there. So it was worth a flyer. They haven't thought about it, and they should have, but they haven't. So it's kind of opportunity missed because I think if you did put her in there in decent form, she'd be a Grade One winner. The rest of them aren't. Let's be honest, and it should be in that kind of probably where Joy should be. I don't know where they're going to introduce from the bend. Probably
Eight
tens.
to I've seen 8 to 1.
Yeah, I was hoping for tens, but that's the prices that you're kind of up against, isn't
Mm.
it? I think Zenta would be a 10. 10, 12 to 1 chance. Like, if you take no chances at 10, 12 to 1, you don't think that's a bad price. And it sums up the kind of race, but it's a betting race at least. The kind of Supreme Arkle and Champion Hurdle are slim pickings by comparison. So at least you've got that kind of angle there where you can go at something that maybe at a price if you don't like Perming Jade de Grugy with 3 other odds on shots.
Anything in kind of preview night whispers that you've heard or anything like that? Anything jumping out?
Not really watched many. No, not really. Absolutely not.
Everybody I've listened to seems to be going about Caroline Bamboo, and I can see where they're coming from.
Yeah, but I think sometimes you can watch too many of them really and cloud your own judgment. I'm a big believer of trusting your own opinion first, and then value others and see if it can harden it and compare it that way. But I think this is a kind of point in the season, week to go, where you firm up your own plans, make up your own battle plan, sort yourself out, and monitor market moves. Anything else, I mean, that kind of like news, like Final Demand coming out to say, that's a bit kind of, but it died down quite quickly. We've seen it with Lossiemouth as well. It died down pretty quickly. I just think people are getting kind of a bit like the start of Supreme, jumping the gun too soon. You've got to find some sort of calmness amidst the madness. So yeah, I think it's important to just stick to your own guns. But yeah, there'll be quite a lot of previews. I might catch up on some of them through the week. Background, they're always quite entertaining to watch and good to hear other people's opinions and interests on it. But would anybody saying anything affect my opinion about the races at the moment? No, and I think a lot of people would be that independent state of mind about things.
Callum, thank you very much as always, mate. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you Monday for the last one.
Thank you very much, folks. Enjoy. I hope you've enjoyed our show, and we'll be back on Monday for our final episode before Cheltenham. We'll see you all soon.